I had lunch yesterday with a good friend of mine from the church here in Coventry, and while we were eating, he was getting excited, telling me about a holiday he's just about to go on. And he's off to Mauritius for one of these all-inclusive stays at a beach hotel. And he and his wife, I'm sure, are going to have a great time. And he was very excited about it all. And one of the things when he started to speak about Mauritius, it reminded me of when I was a little boy. I mean, when I was very young, I used to pick up hobbies and put them down pretty frequently. And one of the hobbies that I pursued just for a short while was stamp collecting. And I remember getting some stamps from Mauritius, and they were always very exotic, very colourful. And when I saw these stamps, I thought, that must be a wonderful place to visit. It must be a wonderful place to go. I've never been, and I never will go now, but it started a kind of memory of all the things I thought of in my childhood, of places I wanted to go. There was a song around at the time, back in the 50s, called Faraway Places with Strange Sounding Names. And that sort of caught my fancy. I used to read a lot, and I'd read about all these strange and exotic places that one day I would want to visit when I grew up. Most of them I've never managed to get to. I've never been to Vladivostok, for instance, but I have been to Kathmandu, and I have been to Nantucket, and I have been to what, when I was a child, was called the Belgian Congo. And I thought, how exciting to visit these faraway places with strange sounding names. I've not managed to get to Timbuktu, but that also was on my list. But I've traveled extensively, and I've been blessed in doing that. I've not traveled as a tourist. Almost always it's because I was preaching or teaching, ministering to the Church of Jesus in those different places. And because I've traveled so many places and to so different lands, I've often been asked, what's the best place that you've been? What's the nicest country that you've visited? Well, that's hard to say because I've not done the touristy stuff. I've seen parts of the country, obviously, but I've seen mostly airlines and meeting houses and church buildings. But I did think about what is the best place that I've ever been. Because I don't travel anymore. I'm not able to do that. But my mind goes back now and again, thinking of some of the places I've visited, and I think again, what was the best? And I've come to this conclusion, and I find it very satisfying as I'm here now, almost permanently in Coventry. The best place to be is in the will of God. And I knew that when I was traveling to America or Canada, when I was in Europe or in Scandinavia, when I was in Africa or India, I was in the will of God. And that's what made them so good. That's what made the difficult places enjoyable. It's what made the hard places easier. To know that one is in the will of God, helping, preaching, teaching, encouraging the saints. That's a great place to be. And although I'm not traveling anymore, I can sit here in my home in Coventry and say to you, this is the best place to be. Right now, because here I am in the will of God. I love traveling, but I love much more than that serving the Lord Jesus Christ. And I'm content to miss those faraway places with strange sounding names and live in this place of strange sounding name called Coventry. And I'm happy and content with my lot. And if you're in the will of God, if you're serving the purpose of God in your generation, then that's the best place to be. Don't hanker after being somewhere else. Don't rush here and there. Just enjoy serving the Lord where you are. And when the time comes, maybe doors of opportunity in those faraway places will open to you. But in the meantime, just concentrate on being in the will of God. It really is the best place to be.